Hey, welcome to this ApproveIT 365 partner training session. Today we're gonna, my colleague Richard will take you through the setup and implementation of ApproveIT 365, our newest solution where you can integrate Business Central into DocuSign. This is the last training session of full of the last couple of days and of the partner event of Q1 2023. So if you have done any of the previous sessions as well, you will know that if you have any questions, you can ask them in the question pane. Let's see if I can make this work. Yeah, before we get started, I want to take a little highlights of our solutions. Direct banking, save 80% of your daily banking processing time with direct banking. Connect your EU bank to the Ponto platform and connect your EU or worldwide bank to the Cobase bank connector. ShipIT 365 connects over 1,250 carriers worldwide. Book and print labels directly from Business Central. No vendor login, so you can connect to any carrier platform that we offer right now. We offer Nshift, Delivery Hub, Nshift Transmart, and SendCloud platform. And you can also integrate ShipIT 365 into the mobile WMS of Task Factory to pick, pack, and ship from your mobile handheld device. Connected 365, the connectivity toolkit for Business Central developers and users. Use multiple formats to connect and methods to connect to multiple data sources. ApproveIT 365, that's the solution we are talking about today. So connect your Business Central to DocuSign. Let your customers safely e-sign your sales quotes via DocuSign, via the PDF. You will shortly see that your customers will receive an email within that there will be a PDF that they can sign. And the signed PDF will be stored safely in Business Central in the sales order that is created from the sales quote. This optimizes your e-sign procedures in Business Central. Dino, this is a small pay-per-use app where you can add fields to any table on any page in Business Central. And starting 2023, you can also edit tables directly within Business Central. Object Manager Advanced, this solution doesn't need any introduction. It's the all you need development tool for NAV and Business Central. So let's dive into today's session. If you have any questions, ask them in the question tab. Richard will walk you through the implementation of ApproveIT. There will be some time to ask your questions or to answer them within the topics, but we also will take some time at the end to do a Q&A. Oh, Richard, can I give the word to you?
Yes, of course. And let's see, yeah. Okay, so today's topic is ApproveIT. Since this is a new solution, I will walk you through the configuration and we will also discuss the basic flows that are possible with the current version. Why have we created ApproveIT? This is done to simplify and speed up the process with prospects and leads to get confirmation back through digital signatures, so that we can store everything in Business Central. We can start the process, of course, with sales quotes or sales orders currently, and from there send out the document, the report, through the DocuSign e-signature service, and get a digital signature back, where we can also see the approved document in Business Central, and depending on the configuration that we use, also can automatically release, or even if we use the sales quotes, automatically create sales orders, so we can continue the process without any delay. So regarding the topics, it's a small list. However, I think with the hour that we have available, we will get to see pretty much all of the ApproveIT solution. And at the end, there will be a Q&A. If you have questions, ask them in the question tab, but please note that we do get to these questions when we start the Q&A. And before that, I will show you the configuration, both on the DocuSign side and in ApproveIT itself. And afterwards, I will show some examples regarding the process flow. So let's start off with DocuSign. Reason for this is we start with the ApproveIT setup. We will need some DocuSign information. So what is needed is a DocuSign account for the e-signature service, which is available as a free service. There are also paid options for that. However, the current integration also works with free DocuSign accounts. However, please do keep in mind that on the DocuSign side, there will be some limitations regarding branding, for instance. First of all, if we go to the ApproveIT wizard, we will also see links to these to the DocuSign environment. There is both a production and an acceptance environment. Those are separate from each other and can be separately managed. And in this, we can see that we can add additional users, configure some email notifications, and if you use a paid version, we can also create brand teams in which we can manage how the email to the customer looks, and also how the DocuSign portal looks when both signees and senders log in and look at the open quotes or open reports. So before we continue, let me share that part. Here we have a DocuSign environment. Here we are actually logged into the demo environment that we will also use for our integration here. And if we go to initially creating an account for this asset is free, so you can just sign up using the link as described in both presentation and in our manual and through the ApproveIT wizard. But if it's created, we have some settings over here. First of all, let me show you users. With a free account, you have one user available, and that means that all documents or the integration runs through that one user. That can be important since on the email that's sent to the customer, we will also see that user mentioned. So currently we have some administrators, but we also have a sender available over here. And that's the account that we will use for this integration. And here it's good to know we have some options regarding permissions where we can set up an admin that can access these settings. We can set up a sender that can actually send the documents, and then we have viewers that can only view active documents. For the integration, we also need to know what the account ID is. That's something that we will need during the setup of ApproveIT. And here you can see in the integrations menu with apps and keys, you can see that there is an API account ID. This will also be required during the setup to link to your account. And this process needs to be done separately when we go to the production environment, because that's a separate environment. Optionally, as mentioned, depending on the pricing plan you use for the e-signature service, we can set up branding, but I do want to show you this because we can set it up for both the signing for the customers that needs to sign and that they get the emails, and for sending, and those are the people that of course from your own organization or from your customer's organization that's going to use the app, that can log in to the portal as well. For the signing, let's take a look at a quick overview here. We can set up some information, the brand name, company name, so you could set up more brands. Currently from ApproveIT, we use the default branding. And here you can edit the team. As you can see, we have edited in such a way that it is using the idyn colors and the idyn logo. And here you can see an example how it looks. So this is the portal, but here you also see how the email would look. And hopefully we can see that as well. You also see a warning over here, which can be useful in this case. I have actually ignored this because on my end, I think it looks decent with our colors. And the last thing that I want to show you over here are the notifications. So we have some email preferences, and this might, we will see some of this in action in a moment. So there are a lot of email notifications from DocuSign, both on the signee side as the sender and also on the signer side, where we can select notifications for all actions, if a document is sent, if a document is opened for the first time, if it's approved. By default, I believe these options are all enabled. And if you don't want to get notifications in your email, because we also get the notifications back in Business Central, then you can deselect them over here. It is good to know that when you look at the email preferences, we have a user and an API user. You want to look at the API user since we are sending our documents through the DocuSign API. So here you can, for instance, see for the sender, I have deselected the notification when a recipient opens an envelope or document for the first time. And I also deselected when a document will be purged, simply because these will be emails that are sent to the sender account. So in this case, the demo@idyn.nl account, which are not necessary for our processing necessarily, and only give us a lot of email notifications. So with this, you can limit that flow as well. Once we have the account, so we have a user, in this case multiple users, but we're going to use that demo user, and we have that API account ID, we can start with the setup. Quick look over here before we go into Business Central. So as with all of our products, we have a wizard available where you can easily configure ApproveIT in a few steps. After that, we will take a look at the setup, how it looks, what kind of options we see over there, including also some additional setup where we can link the Business Central user to the ApproveIT user, and we can set up some details for our reports where we can decide where the signature box needs to go, where a signee needs to sign. And we also have some translations related to that as well. If you have customers that use multiple languages, or you have customers in different countries. And finally, we will also see the job queue entry that will be configured. That will be used to get the status, so that we get the latest information back into Business Central. And also that also handles that if a document is signed and completed, that we get the document back, including the signature. So here we are looking in Business Central. Here we actually have the sales order processor role center active. Currently, we don't have a separate role center for ApproveIT. That might change in the future, but we have added some information on the sales order processor role center because there it makes the most sense, since currently we use sales documents. So here you see the queues that are available for ApproveIT, and we can see all sales quotes, and that actually doesn't show all sales quotes, but all sales quotes where at the very least the ApproveIT flow has started. So those are linked to ApproveIT. With all documents that are sent. We also have a status delivered where we can see if the customer has seen the document, has opened the document, but has not yet signed the document. We can also see if it's completed. In the case of, that means that it's completely signed, and then we can continue our flow in Business Central. However, of course, it is also possible for a customer to decline it, or from our side, we can also void the document. Those steps we will go through them in a moment after I've shown you the setup. So here we are looking at the setup page. Let me actually go one step back and let's go through the wizard actually. So the wizard, let's go through the steps that are needed to actually activate. Of course, as with all our products, we have a license key available that gives back the status. And then the first step is to create a DocuSign account, or actually link the DocuSign account. Here we can check if we want to start with an acceptance environment or production environment, which of course can be changed later on in the setup, and the account ID, and that's an API account ID that I just showed you in the DocuSign portal. If we go to here, if you need to, if this is the first time you've set it up, then we will need some additional information where we need to log in to the DocuSign portal with the account that you want to link, and then it will test the authentication. In this case, we already have a user linked, so it's simply checked again, and we can see that the authentication was successful. I will show you the steps for that in a moment as well, but that can be done in the user setup as well. Next, we have our standard email text. So we have a subject and the content of the email that is being sent. When we send our document to the DocuSign service, an email will be sent from the DocuSign service to the recipient. And here we can set up a standard text that's also visible in the setup. Currently, this is the default text that will be set up. For the next release, or for future release, I should say, we have also some development user stories where we want to integrate substitution variables and create some more options over here so that we can create some more dynamic content. And almost skip these. We have some configuration options available. We have the option available to allow the restart of the process flow in DocuSign if the document is already sent and is not yet voided. We mark it that it is that the flow is already started. Without this option enabled, that will disable the option to send the document again, because normally you wouldn't want to do that, or you want to void the document before starting the flow again. However, this option allows you to restart regardless of the state that or the current status of the document. For production environments, I think that in most cases this can be disabled, or I would advise to disable this. However, of course, there might be some scenarios where it might be needed, but especially for testing purposes, I can totally see that this is an option that you might want to enable to make it a bit easier to test some flows. We have an option as well to only release signed documents, and this will prevent releasing the documents manually if the sales quotes or the sales orders are not yet signed and the process flow is not yet completed. This is just to make sure that we only process quotes where that have been approved by the customer. On the other hand, we also have an option to automatically release the signed documents. Well, that does exactly what you expect it to do. When once the document is signed and we get the latest status back that the flow is completed, we will automatically try to release the document. If this is disabled, of course, you need to process it yourself. And then we have one additional option, and that's specifically when we use sales quotes, and that's to automatically convert it to an order. And the reason that this is set up as something that can be configured is that not everyone has a flow where they use the sales quotes and create a sales order. Sometimes, well, for our own administration, for instance, we convert it to sales invoices directly. Currently, I have this disabled, which means that once the ApproveIT flow has been completed, it will be the document will be released, but we still need to process all released documents ourselves. And then the setup is finished, and then we actually will take a look at the result. So, as mentioned, we have the environment type, which can be switched over here. Currently, it's set to acceptance. We have the license key. We have those flow options. We have some additional information regarding anchors here, which I will explain in a minute. And we have the email subject and text. The anchors are used to decide where the signature box is placed on the document. The way it works is we use the standard reports as that are available in Business Central and that are linked to the process. So for the sales quote, I believe the standard report is 1304. We can see that in a moment. And there we can determine based on the layout where to place it. And the only thing that we need to do is set up an anchor string, and that's a text within the report. So in this case, we use total because total is most of the time that's something that's only available in the on the end of the document. So in this case, we can place it below the total line, and we use the anchor unit pixels, and there are some more available over here which are allowed by DocuSign, and then we set an offset. So we can offset both in the X and Y axis. In this case, we only use the Y offset to make sure that the signature box will be placed below the total line. This is a default. However, this is something that also can be configured for each report separately. If it's not configured for a report, we will fall back on the default setting. So in this case, I have also added it to added the sales quote report, and here I can use a separate offset. One thing that is important before we actually start with the process is to check the users. So here we link the Business Central users to the DocuSign user. And that can be a one-to-one relation where every user that needs to be able to approve a document or send approvals to the customer can be linked over here. However, we can also use defaults. So in this case, I have one user select over here, and that's linked to that demo account in DocuSign, and it's also set up as a default. So if I were to log in as a different user that isn't included in this user setup, then we will look at the default user to make sure that we can still connect. So to start with the process, it will be sufficient to simply create one user in the DocuSign portal and simply connect that user, link that user over here. Now, this user is currently already linked. However, I will show you how we can actually make sure that we can link it. First of all, what I'm going to do is log out that I'm not actually linking with the wrong user. So I will remove it over here, and I will simply click link account. Now we will get a confirmation where it's explained how this process works, but I will simply show you. So yes, we're going to link the account, and a new tab will open. So here we need to log in with the DocuSign user, and for this I will use the demo account, and we will be redirected back to the localhost. What you see here, in this case the standard IIS page, is not really that interesting. However, what we see over here is a URL, and that URL contains an authentication code. We can simply copy the complete URL, and back in the Business Central client, we can see that there is a dialog where we expect the authorization code. So here I have pasted the complete link. We can also paste only the authorization code, but the easiest solution is just to copy and paste the complete link and then click yes. And then we will try, the process will try to authenticate again, and we see the authentication was successful. This is the same process that you will see back in the wizard if you try to connect for the first time. You can also see that if we add a user, it will be automatically set as the default user. If we add a second user, that of course won't be set as a default user. We can only have one default user available, but we can switch, of course, which user is the default user. We also, one step back actually to the anchors, and you also see that we have anchor translations available. Here, if we go to here, we have some translations based on the default anchors. However, we also have that translation available for each report, where we can set up the language ID and we can translate the anchor name, and then it will use the same offset. But that allows us to make sure that we can process the same report with multiple languages. For instance, I can actually set it up for the Dutch language. And I would expect that if it's properly translated, that we have the translation total instead of total. And that way we can still make sure that the signature box is placed in the correct location that uses this anchor offset. One thing to note regarding those anchors, if the anchor can't be found, the signature box won't be placed automatically. However, it's still possible for the signer to place the box themselves, and that's still a requirement, because in the process we need to have one signer available. Now, oh yeah, one thing, of course, before we go to the flow, and that's simply to check the job queue entries. If you have finished the wizard, this job queue entry will automatically be created. I will set it on hold in this case. Of course, it will be created with some default values. So just make sure that if you want to automatically get back the status of all documents, to take a look at the settings for this to make sure, for instance, that it checks from each half hour, depending on the need of the customer. There's no additional setup required. It's just a single code unit. There's no parameter string necessary. So this should be enough to check all documents where the ApproveIT flow has started, where there is an active envelope ID in DocuSign, to check the status and make sure that we get the latest information as well as the signed document if the flow is completed. Then finally we get to the flow. Role center is something that I already discussed a bit. However, it's of course good to know how the actual flow is started and what options we have available. All of these options are available from a single menu that is available on both the sales quote and sales order, both on the cart and list page. To start the flow, we simply need to select the option, select the action, start ApproveIT flow, and then we need to specify the recipients as well as which of those need to sign the document, and from that process we can simply send it to DocuSign, and from there the email will be sent to the actual customer. So let's take a look at that. So for this I will use some sales quotes. I've prepared some here. Here I've set up a sales quote with some lines as well. So this is still an open sales quote. We can also see that we have an ApproveIT section over here. Currently it has no status. and that's simply because we haven't started the flow for this sales quote yet. However, if we start it, we can simply select actions, go to approve it, and start approve it flow. First thing that it will do is render the report. Depending on the report, that might take a little bit of time, especially the first time when the report is rendered. And after that, we get the recipient page where we can select or where we can choose who will get the email and documents. By default, it uses the email used on the sales document, and it will use the name for either the contact, or if there isn't a contact on the sales document, then it will fall back to the customer name. As you can see, it will be added by default to be the signer. We can still edit the list and also add some additional email addresses. Here we can also decide to actually have multiple signers, but we can also send a copy simply to someone else. For now, I will simply send it to one email address. So I should get an email. Yeah, there it is actually. But before we get to that, we can also see that currently the status is sent. And we should also see if we go to log, that an envelope was created in DocuSign. We can also see who created it based on the DocuSign user and which user received or which user was sent the document. And if we go if we get further into the flow, then we'll get more information there as well. So we have the email. Make sure that we actually have everything available. So here we can actually see we've used the branding available in DocuSign to get our look and feel. And we also get the email text as set in the setup, as well as the subject. And here we can simply select to review the document. First time that you're a customer, that's unfortunately in Dutch, first time a customer sees the DocuSign and maybe they don't have a DocuSign account yet linked to their email, they will get a default confirmation to agree with the terms and conditions of DocuSign, and then we can proceed. And here we can see the document. In this case, it's actually a default Kronos sales quote. And here you can see that there is a signature box that's placed below the total line. So that's this placement is based on the anchors that are set up in the ApproveIT setup. Few ways for the signer to proceed with this. If they choose start, then it will show them step by step what needs to be done. In this case, we only need to sign the document. So, and it will show you what to do. There are some more actions over here. Some of them actually can be set up in the DocuSign portal as well. But here they could deny the document or the current document as well. For now, I will sign it. And here, a good thing is to know that we will use a signature. Once again, if it's a new user that doesn't have a DocuSign account or hasn't used DocuSign before, then they need to select the current signature, and from then the signature will be the default signature. However, they can also sign it themselves, or they can choose a different style as well. And here we can see that the signature box is placed, and after that the customer can complete the flow, and that's everything that's needed to sign it. Once again, if they don't have an account yet, they will get an extra dialog box to where they can create an account to view the document later in the DocuSign portal as well. In this case, I will click no. That's everything that the customer needs to do to sign it. We can also see that based on the email preferences, that there will be additional emails that the document has been completed in this case, and that's something that will be visible on both sides, so both on the sender as the signer side. And you can also see that there is actually an attachment over here with the signed document as well, and that's something that you may or may not want in your email. However, regardless of the email preferences, it is something that we can get back in Business Central as well. So currently, since we haven't updated the status here, we still see that the status is sent. So let's actually get the latest status. And here we can see that the ApproveIT status is completed. And we can also see that based on that setup that we did, that the document is automatically released. And we can also see that we have an attachment. And in that attachment, we can see the quote that was actually signed. And here we can see that digital signature. So this way we have everything we need. We have our confirmation, the customer has signed the document, and we can continue with our internal flow in Business Central. If we go back to the log, we now see some additional information. So first we saw that it was registered, invitation was sent. We can see the document was opened, and we can also see the user. We can see that it was viewed, it was signed, and also the actions that a copy was sent to both the sender and signer parties. And in this case, we have also received the copy in Business Central back. So here we have a complete log available of all actions, so we can take a look if needed to make sure what happened and when all registrations happened, to make sure that we haven't skipped any steps. If we do another one of these examples, we simply start the flow again. As you will see, the rendering is a bit quicker now because we have already rendered the same report for a different sales quote, but still the layout was already retrieved. But let's say, for instance, that this that the sent sales quote was incorrect, and we want to make some adjustments, and want to send it again. So since we have that option disabled to restart the flow in any status, we need to make sure that we void the document. This cancels the document on the customer side and on our side, of course, as well. If you void the document, we need to give a reason. And this is something that we can also see back in the log. So here we have the status voided. From this status, it is possible, regardless of that setting, to restart the flow. It is possible to send out a new document. Before I do that, however, once again, we check the log. And here we can see it was voided, and we can also see what the reason was. Now, in this case, I should be able to edit this and start once again. So now the status is back to send. If I try to send it again, it should give an error that the flow was already started. In this menu, we also have one additional action available, download documents, that does the same as when we get the latest status back and the document is completed, then we will automatically get that document. So in the normal process flow, this action should not be necessary. However, this makes it possible to get the document on demand, and then it will still be added as an attachment. Currently, that won't be allowed because it will mention that it's only possible when it's completed. So since the current status is sent, there is no document to download because we're only interested in the signed copy. So that's basically the flow. There are some configuration options. Of course, we can also do this on the sales orders currently. And of course, we might expand this for multiple document types besides the sales documents. For those who were there during the highlight session, a suggestion was made to also include it on the service documents, for instance. Well, that is also something that could be done. And that's pretty much all there is in this release. So this means that we can actually start the Q&A session. I don't know if there are any questions.
Richard, thank you for that the training. There are no questions right now. You can, if one of the attendants has any questions, they can ask them in the question tab or follow up with this email to sales@idyn.nl. For now, Richard, do you have any topics left to discuss?
No, this is pretty much it for now. We went through the configuration, went to the basic flow. And as mentioned, if there are any questions after this, of course, they can be sent to our sales team at sales@idyn.nl.
Okay, perfectly. Then let's wrap up this session. Thank you so much for your time. And Richard, thank you again for hosting this training. And for the attendance, hope to see you in the next training or in the next event. Thank you. Bye-bye.